It is a troubling trend among America's heroes. Suicide rates among America's military and veterans have skyrocketed. And this week, the House Veterans Affairs Committee met to try to figure out how to stop a real health crisis. The nonprofit Independence Fund helps wounded vets and caregivers. Their push to stop suicides is called Operation Resiliency. Retired Navy Captain Bob Carey from the fund is up late with me on the Final Five. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
How bad is the problem right now facing our nation's veterans?
The veteran suicide rate is anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 times greater than that of the general populations. And amongst the 18 to 29-year-old veteran, especially those that have served in Iraq or Afghanistan, the rate is upwards of 10 times greater than that of the general populations. So it's a real problem.
So this week we know that the House Veterans Affairs Committee met, and we know that for years there's been a lot of attention paid to our nation's veterans affair and the health care that our veterans face. What were they trying to do this week? What good is talking going to do?
Well, part of the problem is that there's so many factors that can go into suicide and what causes it. And so they're trying to figure out how they can address this. The VA has been consistently saying, you can't just throw more money at this because this is a societal issue that needs to be addressed. And that's, in part, that's true. The issue is that, a lot of factors can go into a decision for dying from suicide, whether that be judicial action or marital difficulties or unemployment or homelessness. But ultimately, one of the things the Independence Fund that we've been pushing is that this is ultimately a behavioral health issue. So we really do believe that we have to continue our focus on the behavioral health treatment of the veterans in order to be able to break this suicide epidemic.
And mental health is enough of a stigma. It's not easy to get people to talk about it in the first place. But when you talk about people who put their lives on the line in the name of our country, and the fact that there are documented problems with getting them the care they need, how do you open that conversation, and how do you get people to talk about that issue of behavioral health for veterans?
Well, one of the things that the Independence Fund that we're doing is we have a partnership with the VA. It's a brand new program called Operation Resiliency. And what we do is that we bring together combat units, usually the company or battalion size, who have experienced a lot of combat and a lot of casualties within that combat, but who are also experiencing high suicide rates post-deployment back to the United States. And we're bringing them back together as a unit to let them reignite those unit bonds that were so tight when they were downrange. Yeah. And giving them the opportunity to not only hold each other accountable like they used to when they were downrange, but also to open up to each other and to express those issues that are hitting at many of them. And we're finding, we just did our first one with a parachute infantry regiment, 2nd of the 508th, or the 82nd Airborne. We did that a couple weeks ago in Charlotte. We're doing another one here next week with an armored regiment down in Houston. And we're finding these guys are really opening up and expressing, the issues that they're dealing with, because most of them are out now and they don't have that really tight unit cohesion that they had before.
And I'll tell you, my uncle served in Vietnam. He went through a lot of care through the VA system up until he passed about a year ago from cancer, but he went through a lot of trouble. I saw a lot of that firsthand in our family. But what struck me, and you mentioned this before we came on the air, is it's stunning to see how a much younger population of veterans, and we know there are a lot of there are more younger veterans in this country who fought in Iraq, they fought in Afghanistan. That's going way up.
Right. I mean, what's unique about the veteran population nowadays is that for the first time, the under 65-year-old veteran is the majority. And in fact, those that are the post 9/11, the post Desert Storm veteran is the biggest group of veterans that are out there now. It's no longer the Vietnam or Korea or World War II. And so we've really got to address this veteran suicide issue from a younger perspective. As I said before, for the 18 to 29-year-old veteran who served in Iraq or Afghanistan, their rate of suicide is almost 10 times that of the general populations. And if we don't, figure out what's going on with that specific population, we're never going to break this issue.
Bob, where can people find more information about the Independence Fund?
www.independencefund.org. If they know of a military unit that would profit from our programs, tell them to feel free to reach out to us as well.
You may be retired, but thank you for your continued service to veterans across the country.
My honor.
All right, back after this in the Final Five.